How's it going, guys? Brandon Wheeler here with Morelia House. I'd like to talk about breeding scrub pythons tonight. As many as you know, I was lucky enough to produce a clutch of southern Maruke locality scrubs this year, and I took quite a few notes, so I figured what good are those notes if I don't share them with all of you guys. So first, let's talk about the size that they need to breed. Scrubs are a slender-bodied species that do get rather large, 14, 15 feet. Is definitely a capable size of the southern locality. 15 would be huge, but they can get there. I would say they're going to average closer to 12 though. Mine, this year I bred my female at about 7.5 feet. And I'm not entirely sure what her age is, but I estimate her to be about 4 years old. So they do not need to be massive to breed at all. In my opinion, it takes a whole lot of food in order to get them up to that larger range of the spectrum. I think there's no reason why an adult female should need to be bigger than 12 feet. Although I'm sure they will get there with age. So as far as breeding's concerned, I always come into it with food cycling and temperature are the main two things that I look at when it comes to breeding scrubs. So food cycling is kind of an all-year event. It's not something that you're just doing during the winter time. It's something that you have your mind on during all times of the season. So between May to October, my animals are on a bi-weekly schedule. So they eat every other week right through May to October. Now in November, I've started to cool the room a bit. So they're going to go down to just one small meal in November, which will give them time to empty out by December. December and January, they're going to have no food at all. They may have a small meal in February, and I'll start to heat up a little bit through March and April. And if you've done your job right, your females aren't going to take food during this time because they should already be gravid and getting ready to lay their eggs. So anyway, that's the food schedule that I go with. As far as temp cycling, my room's down to 60 degrees by December. So I start to cool it a little bit in November down to about 65, and we're down to 60 by December. Now, I still keep the nighttime low of the scrub cages down to about 72, even though the ambient in my reptile room is down to 60. But even with the nighttime low with a thermostat being set to 72, you can figure the cold side of their cage is still going to get down to about 67, 68 degrees throughout that winter season. Now that's just the nighttime low. You're not really going to adjust the daytime temperatures at all. So I'll keep my daytime temps between 86 to 88 degrees. And I'll have that turn on at about 8 a.m. is when my heat kicks on. And I'll have it off at 5. Okay. I'll do that throughout the winter and throughout all the way from really mid-November until March. That's kind of my temperature regimen. After March hits, then my reptile room is going to get warmer anyway, just because of the temperatures that it is outside. I tend to cool my room because I live in Southern California by just keeping a window open. So my nighttime temps are going to get back up into where it's 70, 72, 75 in my room at night. I up my nighttime low on their tanks to be down to 73 still, but they're naturally, just because of where I live, everything's going to pump back up after that. So as long as, in my opinion, as long as you have that daytime high good to go, they're not going to get sick. If you start treating them like colubrids and they don't have that opportunity to heat back up again in the middle of the day, then you're going to end up with a sick snake. But I do feel like the temp cycling mixed with the food cycling does have an effect on breeding. Now, as far as pairings are concerned, I like to pair, when I think of when it's a good time to pair my animals, my pairings are going to be usually between the January and February, and I'm looking for two things. I'm looking for a shed cycle, and I'm looking for a rainstorm. So anytime I don't know why, but anytime it's raining, I want them together. And anytime they shed, I want them together. So this year I had a male shed at February 6th. I witnessed my first lock on February 10th, and they locked on and off for a couple of days, and I went ahead and separated him back out on February 15th because he seemed like he was no longer interested, and my female was in blue at that point. So she ended up shedding on February 25th, and I put them back together immediately after she shed, and then they locked for about 12 hours straight. After that lock of on the 25th, again, he wasn't interested, she wasn't interested. You can kind of get a feel for when they don't want to play with each other anymore, so I went ahead and separated him out. Her pre-lay shed was on April 20th, and the clutch was laid on May 17th. The clutch ended up being hatched on let's see, 8-1. So that was a 76-day incubation cycle. I incubated them at 88.5 degrees. Now, it's important as far as incubation is concerned to have a sealed container. You want as little airflow going in that box as possible with as much humidity as possible. So that being said, it's important to burp your eggs every couple of days so you can get some airflow in there, but you really don't want to let that humidity escape. And that's something that I messed up on early on in my incubation, and I let my eggs get too dry about the first 2 weeks and had to really kind of overcorrect with moisture for the rest of the incubation cycle, which luckily worked out all right for me. So anyway, I was very lucky to produce a clutch. This is a species that's not for everyone, but it's certainly always been for me. I've loved scrubs for as long as I can remember. I started keeping the species a little over 10 years ago, and this was my first shot at producing them. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, Morelia House on Facebook or Instagram, or Brandon Wheeler, and I love to talk scrub pythons. So anyway, thanks for listening, and have a good one. You guys take it easy.